Hey, I'm Sam.
Hey, I'm Ross.
And today we're going to talk about it.
Let's talk about it.
Okay, let's talk about that.
Let's talk about that.
Let's talk about that. Hey, today we're talking about invite culture.
Invite culture,
is very
yeah.
important.
Super important.
For reasons.
For many reasons,
yeah.
I think. Right, seriously. And I think of like honestly, invitations carry so much weight. And specifically from what they're from. And so like you think like in natural life right now, if you got an invitation to your neighbor friend's birthday party that you didn't really like too much,
yeah,
you'd be like,
decline.
That invitation, you might decline, right? But that invitation carries a little more weight because it's like, oh, that person's really cool.
Yeah.
And I maybe want to be around them.
It's a
and
big deal. Or like your favorite
deal.
celebrity, if they asked you, like, you want to come eat dinner at Chipotle, you'd be like, yeah, I'm down.
Right.
I'd be down in a second.
I mean, I like Chipotle. But yeah, I would be down easy, right?
Yeah.
So invitations carry these different weights. And I think that we have an opportunity and almost an obligation and calling from God to invite people into our kingdom community. And you think of like how naturally that forms for us is through chapel students, through our small groups, and through what we get to do throughout the midweeks of our weeks and what we get to do online and things like that. And so I think, we have a weight and obligation of inviting others into that.
Yeah.
That is really
so
fun
good.
and exciting. And see, this is where the weight, like, it differs, okay? Because I had this moment in middle school. So I was a 7th grader, and this guy named Jake. Jake, if you're watching, I'm not connected with you too much now, but Jake, if you're watching, you had the big house, 4-wheelers, and like in-ground pool. And he had this massive birthday party every year because his birthday came once a year, like many people. Right. And so he would always be sending out invitations, and I, as the chubby 7th grade middle schooler I wasn't popular, wasn't very cool. I would not often make the list, but this one year, 7th grade, I remember walking in the hallway, and I maybe I was, looking sad and needed to cheer up. Who knows?
Totally.
But Jake approached me, and what he said was, "Hey, you're invited." And I'm like, to what? Because I'm like, oh, and he's like, to my birthday party. That's like, and I'm like, wait, I'm invited. And I went, and it was incredible. And so, this invitation to me in 7th grade carried so much weight because it was the best party of the year. Like all the cool kids went, and I wasn't very cool, but I went. I rode a 4-wheeler. I jumped in a pool. I played he had video game system stuff back in the day, like Xbox One original.
Yeah,
it was like the top of the line, and I loved it. It was great. And so that was a huge invitation.
Yeah,
that was important to me, right? In that moment.
It's really
It was incredible.
Jake, I did not get invited. I'm still upset. You didn't know me, but it's cool.
I hope I might actually send him. I hope he watches this.
He's going to invite me next year.
Next year, right? That's so fun. But I mean, transitioning off that, literally, I remember also this invitation that carried so much weight that I didn't realize beforehand. And it was this girl that I really liked that invited me to go to youth group. And it was this invitation that at the time I was like, church, youth group, like I really like you. So do you like that? And she's like, yeah. And so I said yes to go to this invitation, right? It carried a little bit less weight because I wasn't certain, I wasn't sure, but what she was inviting me into was so much more and so much bigger than what I actually initially said yes to. But it was because of her heart of invitation. Right? Her heart is saying, I know what's here for you and me.
Right.
Could you join me in it? Right. And could you come with me? Right. And me as a 7th grader, I was liking this girl.
Totally.
Yes, let's do it. Right. And some of us might be here too. If you're online or you're sitting at one of our campuses, you may be here because someone invited you that's special to you. Right? And that invitation may have carried weight because of that friendship or relationship. But that's so good. We're so glad you're here. However we got here, we're so glad you're here.
That's actually how I got my friends to church. I was like, there are no guys and there's a ton of girls. And I got all my best friends to come to church that way. Right. So I used people for I'm sorry.
Right. Yeah.
That was the hook that I got them in.
Right.
There's not a lot of competition, guys.
Right.
Let's go.
Come on, we gotta do this, right? And that was good. Invitational. You just wanted to invite them into that. And that's so special. But I think invites and invitations hold different values for different people. But as followers of Christ, I think we know when we invite someone to youth group or to our student night or to a Bible study or to a small group or even at our schools, we invite them to that FCA club or that Bible club. We know the invitation's weight already because we're following Jesus, and we're like, this invitation's deeper than just saying, come, just be a person in a room, but actually come and experience what God's doing. Totally. Right? And that's almost the culture we're wanting to create in our students and in our in our student groups is that we would be invitational hearted to see the people around us and say, they belong with me here.
Yeah.
Right? And that God's love doesn't pick and choose you or me and skip some other people, even if you don't like them. But actually, his love is extended to them too, right?
Yeah,
and
the people that say yes are going to be the ones that surprise you the most.
For sure.
Because the people you think that will say yes typically don't say yes. It's
Right.
the kids that you never thought to invite that end up saying yes, and you're like, I did not see that coming.
Totally.
So-
And you're like, really? You want to be here? or you're saying yes because something about this is appealing to you, but that's where God can actually begin some transformation in some lives that are around you. And maybe even in your own life, if you're invited deeper into a relationship with Christ week by week in your student group, in your small group, actually, you're beginning to say yes to invitations. God's inviting you in to step further with him, right? And so it's just like this beautiful culture we can create that can actually begin changing the world. That's where revival starts, is by inviting others to join you and to see what God's doing and to be changed by what God's doing week in and week out. We get to show our love in really great ways by inviting people into that relationship with Jesus and saying, hey, would you be willing to explore this with me? I've said yes, and I would encourage you to say yes for these different reasons, but could I invite you to explore it with me and to walk alongside me and chasing after Jesus? And that's where the beauty of our love's shown through that invitation.
Totally.
And that's why we love it. That's why we encourage you, and we encourage many of you just to invite your friends to summer camp, to a student group, to a small group. Just invite, because we know what God can do through you, but we also know what God can do just in a moment where a student is recognizing and really revealed to his love and to his greatness, nature, and just to his Holy Spirit that can really change a life almost immediately, instantly change a life. And that's really cool.
And now it's time for a segment we call Diving into Some Truth.
Diving
into
truth.
Yay.
All right, so I was actually thinking of Jesus when I was thinking of invite culture, because we see throughout a lot of the Gospels where Jesus would just simply say, follow me. And in this culture, what it really meant from a rabbi to say follow me, or a teacher to say follow me, was follow me, become a disciple of me, which means learn from me, be with me, learn what I do what I do. And Jesus, in this most natural way, says this in John 1, verse 43, says this: the next day, Jesus decided to leave for Galilee. Finding Philip, he said to him, follow me. And so it's this beautiful moment. Jesus just says, follow me. Philip, like Andrew and Peter, was from the town of Bethsaida. Philip found Nathanael and told him, we have found the one Moses wrote about in the law and about whom the prophets also wrote, Jesus of Nazareth, the son of Joseph. Catch this, right? The response here is a little crazy. It says this: Nazareth? Can anything good come from there? Nathanael says. He's asking this, right? Come and see, said Philip. When Jesus saw Nathanael approaching, he said to him, here truly is the Israelite in whom there is no deceit. And so Jesus already sees Nathanael approaching, calls him out for who he is. Jesus is saying, here truly is an Israelite with whom there is no deceit. How do you know me? Nathanael says, right? Jesus answered, I saw you while you're still under the fig tree before Philip called you. Then Nathanael declared, right? He's seeing the glory and goodness of God in this moment where Jesus calls him out, knowing him for who he is. And Nathanael clearly had never really met Jesus yet until this moment. I saw you. Then Nathanael declared, Rabbi, you are the Son of God. You are the King of Israel. Jesus said, you believe because I told you I saw you under the fig tree. You will see greater things than that. This moment where Jesus is leading, right, Nathanael to a moment of seeing greater things than this, inviting him into what God can do, right, and seeing all God can do through Jesus himself. You will see even greater things than this. Would you follow me? I want to invite you to follow me. I want you to follow me, Nathanael, in seeing this. I think this is an amazing, exciting example that Jesus did this often. I would say he would ask people to follow him, and what it was is more than just follow me, walk behind me, and just don't do much. Jesus was inviting people into his kingdom, inviting people into a life of following him with full abandonment, all in, right? And then we actually get to see through Scripture where God would use these people who followed him for amazing, magnificent things. Yeah. And even Jesus alluding to it here, right? Saying, you will see greater things than that. Nathanael, you'll see greater things than me just saying, I saw you out under the fig tree when I wasn't really there. I know you, right? You'll see even greater things than this. which is so incredible. And that's where I feel like parts of our invite culture here in Chapel Students, we're really just trying to mimic Jesus and inviting people into his kingdom, right? With the true life only Jesus can bring, inviting people in to see what God does. And that is change our lives. That is beginning to mend broken hearts, beginning to give freedom where freedoms certainly do, right? And I think it's just so special. And that's really the big heart behind invite culture, behind invitation, I think.
That's awesome.
In Scripture,
Yeah, so there's a pattern in this. So when we see this, Jesus is already present in this town. Mm-hmm. And when we typically think of Jesus going to town, I think most of us envision that scene from Aladdin where he throws the parade. Right. He's like, Prince Aladdin. Yeah. But that's what we think of when Jesus goes town to town. Right. That's not what happens. Right. So not at all. He'd just kind of roll in and he'd kind of invest in the community. Like he'd hang out and go like house to house and temple to temple and just kind of, he would invest in the people around him. Like he'd just, I don't know, enjoy life. Grab a Chipotle burrito and talk to people.
It's like they're really authentic.
Yeah. It wasn't a big parade. Right. And so like it's no wonder that Nathaniel hasn't heard of him yet because he didn't throw a big parade. But Philip is a follower of Jesus. Yeah. Like he is just like, he's in love with this guy named Jesus. And I love this because he goes to his buddy Nathaniel. You gotta follow this guy, Jesus of Nazareth. Right. And he says, Nazareth, can anything good come from Nazareth? Right. Because Nazareth was like a truck stop town. You don't stay in Nazareth, you pass through it. Right. Like there's nothing good there. So he's dissing Jesus' hometown. Right. Pretty much. Just straight up. And I don't know about you, maybe you have that fear of inviting friends to church and they're like, can anything good come from that? Or like, what if they don't value what you value? Yeah. And I love Philip's response. Like, he doesn't get into a theology debate. Right. He doesn't sit there and like, it's time to catch hands and start like smacking Nathaniel. He doesn't get frustrated. He just says 3 words, come and see. Yeah. Right? He says, come and experience it yourself. Like, taste and see for yourself. See if this is for you. Yeah. So I think we always think that, like, what if we have to get into a debate with our friends? Or we have to prove that they should come. And it's like, you don't have to prove anything when you're inviting.
Just come and see.
Just come and see. Right. That's all you got to say is come and see. Come and see. And I think we see 2 different types of invites in that passage. We see our invite to the world and Jesus' invite to us. Yeah. So we're inviting people to church. Yep. And when they come to church, they're receiving an invite from God.
For further life in him. And I think that's such a beautiful, like just step by step throughout this passage was just a calling of invitation on people's lives, right? Yeah. Come and see. And Jesus even saying too at the end of there, you will see greater things than that. Like us trusting and believing and almost this expecting big of what God can do. One of our student values of what God can do in our student ministry and through revival and our invitation and asking those who we may think is the least of these or those who we think are so far off, but the simple invite to come and see could completely change your life. Totally. Right? And maybe some of the yeses would be surprising, right? Yeah. You invite and you're like, you said yes.
I don't know what to do.
What am I supposed to do? I hope you really like it. You know, it's like it's really good and really exciting. Yeah. So invite your friends. Invite your friends to what we've got going on because it's not really about us, but it's about what God's doing here. Totally. I invite them to come and see because God's doing a work in you, among us, through Chapel Students, and definitely in this season to really change lives, to really begin a work of revival in our student ministry and in Chicagoland as a whole, through all of our campuses. I believe it's just oozing out of us, right, as we invite, as we continue in this culture of invitation for God to really show up and do amazing things.
Yeah. Final thoughts. When we try to invite people, I feel like we always feel like we're trying to get people to heaven. Right. That's not what we're about at all. We're trying to bring heaven to earth. Yep. And that only happens when we are living invitationally. Yeah. So what if this year you decided to live invitationally? How would you change your community, your school, your friends? Yeah. And also, everyone wants to be invited. No one wants to not get the invite. Let's be honest. Like, if you invited every single one of your friends to church but one, and that friend found out, how would they feel? Right. They feel like they're missing out.
I'm missing out, right?
Everyone wants to be invited, folks. Everyone wants to be invited.
For sure.
So
yeah, that's good.
Any final thoughts for you?
I think that you covered it.
Oh,
that
okay.
was great. You
Cool.
killed it. I loved it. That was a killer final thought. I want
oh
them
my
to be
gosh.
left with that.
We're gonna put it on a plaque.
We are gonna put it on a plaque.
And I'm gonna make a shirt.
That's awesome.
We're doing none of that. So
Or maybe we'll make shirts.
maybe or hat.
If you'd like a shirt, just go ahead and do a clap.
Let
real
us
quick.
know.
Throw
Clap
it in the
right
chat.
now.
Yeah, clap.
Put
You
one
want
in the
some
chat.
shirts? Me too. Us
Yeah.
too.
Okay.
Okay, let's do that.
All right. Cool.
We made shirts in this. This is great.
Anyways, thanks for watching. Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Until next time, I'm Sam.
I'm Ross. Invite your friends.